silent, surgical. India displays military prowess. Desert warriors gear up. INS Surat achieves a new maritime milestone. Rafales and Sukhois in the skies. India ups the ante against Pakistan. Pakistan spooked, scrambles at LOC. What will be India's next move? Top focus on 5 Live.
Their skills for operations. Now, there are a series of drills that are currently being perfected, not just by the Army, but also the Navy and the Air Force, and especially in the past 48 hours. Some of these exercises are to test precision strike capabilities of our armed forces to carry out operations, including raids and insurgents to capture vital assets and vital points of India's enemies. These are soldiers who are practicing for operations behind enemy lines, not just shallow raids, but deeper raids behind enemy lines. The Sand Viper Brigade, for example, it's part of a current exercise that's currently underway in the desert sector, focusing on precision, power and coordination during combined arms maneuvers training. Now, combined arms is not just infantry and artillery, but infantry, artillery, armor, engineers, the service arms, the support arms, all of them operating in tandem. The images that you see on your television screen, that's a display of exceptional synchronized movement, firepower and communication of Indian Army tanks, armored personal carriers and command, control and communication system. In the Air Force, they say, the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. In the central sector, you have the Rafale Omni-Role fighter jets and the Sukhoi 30 MKI, and these are air superiority and air dominance fighters that are taking part in what is being described as extremely critical C4I2SR exercises. And the armed forces are, when they talk about C4I2SR, let me tell you what that means. C4 includes command, control, communication. I2 is information, intelligence, and SR is surveillance and reconnaissance. So these are part of C4I2SR operations that are currently being perfected. And this enables commanders to effectively deploy their resources in the battle, their weapons, including their armed UAVs, in any battle scenario for manned, unmanned operations in tandem, surveillance and attack operations from air to ground and air to air using diverse platforms. Remember, the Su-30 MKIs are of Russian origin. They can carry up to 8 tons of weapons. The French-made 4.5 generation, not exactly 5th generation, but 4.5 generation, Rafale fighter jets can carry up to 9 tons plus of weapons, including the Meteor air-to-air missiles, the Scalp cruise missiles for long-range ground targets. And this is something, remember Prime Minister Narendra Modi after Balakot had said, if we had the Rafales, Pakistanis wouldn't have attempted their Operation Swift Retort the next day after Balakot. Do keep in mind, India now has the Rafales with its BVRs or beyond visual range missiles. The Indian Navy, meanwhile, has its warships out in the Arabian Sea and submarines wherever they may be lurking under sea. The Indian Navy successfully test-fired a medium-range surface-to-air missile, an MR-SAM, as part of its air defense system on board the latest guided missile destroyer, that's INS Surat, in the Arabian Sea. The Indian Navy in a statement said, and I quote, INS Surat successfully carried out a precision cooperative engagement of a sea-skimming target, marking another milestone in strengthening of our defense capabilities, unquote. So while these exercises, and many of these exercises are regular skilling and upskilling and testing of concepts for soldiers and commanders on ground, the timing, very close after Pakistan state-sponsored radical Islamist terror targeted innocent civilians in Pahalgam, and that massive spike in tension between India and Pakistan add a new dimension to the operational preparedness efforts of the armed forces, and they're all working in tandem in these operations. I quickly want to cut across to India Today's Kamaljeet Kaur Sandhu joining us from Ground Zero in Jammu and Kashmir. Kamal is in Srinagar currently. Kamal, the army chief was in Srinagar. The army chief toured around the area. What more can you tell us about operations on ground before I come to you for details of the exercises that are currently underway?
These are multifaceted operations, and remember, on war footing, there has been a step up as far as vigilance is concerned. So we have seen at line of control near Bandipora, that's where counter-terror operations have taken place. There's also operations taking place in the hinterland, be it Kulgam, be it Tral area, be it other places. We also saw there's a synergy between Jammu Kashmir Police, the CRPF, the Indian Army, all working in tandem. This is extremely important because the war preparedness is one thing, but to work in tandem, especially once the terrorists have infiltrated in, is another thing. So this is where the security forces, led by the Indian Army, are looking at having operations. There's a heightened sense of vigil. Now, there has been a small exchange of firearms, especially at the line of control between both the Indian and the Pakistani army, and obviously the provocation coming in from Pakistan. The ceasefire violations are something that they have been doing all along. But at this point of time, Pakistan knows very well they have crossed the red line, which also means there has been a response, be it during the Uri attack, be it during the Pulwama attack, and thereafter Pahalgam becomes a new benchmark of sorts. So yes, there's been a diplomatic measure which has been taken place. But remember, when Union Home Minister Amit Shah was here, he did speak to the security forces. There are several plans on the table, and that's when all-party meeting took place. But remember, they're also looking and scanning through the launch pads, the terror launch pads, and we've been told that there are at least 42 of them where there are active terrorists operating from there, and this is where there are also a whole lot of underscanners. So they are just awaiting a green signal, a nod from the government, and thereafter we know the sort of war games
and preparations
which have been taken here for years and months. That comes.
Keep tracking that story. I will come back to you for more. Kamaljeet Kaur Sandhu, for the moment, many thanks. Now, what are India's options? What do these exercises mean? And I have three top commanders of the armed forces joining me on this special broadcast. Each and every one of them has dealt with the threat that India faces, not just on the northern borders, but also the threat that's posed by Pakistan's state-sponsored radical Islamist terror. My proud privilege to welcome on the special broadcast Lieutenant General Arun Sani, former General Officer Commanding-in-Chief of the Southwestern Command. He joins me on the show, former Army Commander. Also joining me is Vice Admiral A.K. Singh, former Flag Officer Commanding-in-Chief, Eastern Naval Command. And on the special broadcast with me is Air Marshal Sanjeev Kapoor, former Director General Flight Safety and Inspections, a former fighter pilot of the Indian Air Force. And we'll talk to all three guests of ours. But before I come to our guests to understand the meaning of these exercises, I want to tell our viewers that there's a massive spike in tensions between India and Pakistan. This after Pakistan's state-sponsored terror attack in India in Pahalgam. Prime Minister Narendra Modi took a pledge. He made it very clear. India will track, trace and punish the perpetrators of terror and also those who shield them and support them. 26 people have lost their lives. India is very clear. The perpetrators will be found wherever they may be hiding, even if it's on the other side of the globe. India's resolve has never been clearer. The diplomatic showdown has intensified. The nation appears to be taking very strong and decisive action in response to Pakistan's repeated terror activities in our country. So, where is the balance of power? Is it shifting in India's favor decisively? And is it clear India is not going to back down despite Pakistan's nuclear bogey? We get you more in this report.
India will identify, track and punish every terrorist and their backer.
A day after Prime Minister Narendra Modi promised India will crush terror and its supporters, New Delhi has turned up the heat many notches. The Home Ministry has given instructions to cancel all visas related to Pakistan. Home Minister Amit Shah spoke to all chief ministers. All states have been told to remove Pakistani citizens on Indian visit. Army Chief General Upendra Dwivedi is in Srinagar to review the situation. He was briefed about the ongoing operations in the valley. He also met Jammu and Kashmir LG for security review. The diplomatic war between India and Pakistan has escalated further. After India suspended the Indus Water Treaty, Pakistan responded by suspending the Shimla Agreement. While India closed the Atari border in Amritsar, Pakistan responded by closing down its post on the other side in Wagah. India has also revoked visas for Pakistan nationals, forcing them to leave immediately. In retaliation, Pakistan has cancelled visas of Indians under SARC scheme. While India declared Pakistan defence officers in India persona non grata, Pakistan responded by expelling Indian defence advisors. The situation at LOC also remains tense, even as Pakistan violates ceasefire. Pakistani nationals currently visiting India are rushing to reach the Atari-Wagah border to return home. They have a 48-hour deadline to leave the country following India's decision to suspend the SARC visa exemption scheme in the wake of Tuesday's Pahalgam massacre.
मैं सांगड़ जिले में मेरी शादी हुई है और मैं पाकिस्तान जाना चाहती हूँ।
अब परेशानी क्या आ रही है? आप इंडियन पासपोर्ट होल्डर हैं?
मेरे को परेशानी ये आ रही है कि हम इंडियन हैं, ये पाकिस्तानी है, जाने देंगे या नहीं देंगे।
बिल्कुल, जब हमें टाइम दे दिया गया तो फिर तो हमें घबराहट थी कि भाई हमें जल्द से जल्द बॉर्डर क्रॉस करना है। 48 आवर्स का टाइम है। फिक्र ये रहेगी कि बच्चे जो है ना पीछे वो तो पाकिस्तानी पासपोर्ट पे ही हैं, तो अब उनका वीजा एक्सटेंड होगा नहीं, क्योंकि वो सारे 10 साल 8 साल 5 साल के बच्चे हैं।
Now there is a sense of panic at the Atari border where the Pakistani nationals have gathered in big number to return back to their countries. These Pakistani nationals had came to here to meet their relatives, near ones, dear ones, but now after the closure of the border was announced, there is a sense of panic for the people to return back. Not only the Pakistani nationals are going back, but also Indians who are married in Pakistan are also heading back, although they are in a sense of panic that they'll be allowed or not.
After launching the diplomatic strikes in Pakistan, Indian Army, Navy and Air Force conducted special exercises. The Indian Army's Sapta Shakti Command executed a special heliborne operation rehearsal in Southwestern Command. The exercise underlines the growing prominence of heliborne tactics in India's defence playbook. The Indian Air Force conducted exercise Akraman, moving from eastern sector to central sector. Indian Air Force pilots carried out missions for mountain and ground targets, including long-range sorties. With Asim Bassi at the Wagah border and Mir Farid from Pahalgam, Bureau Report, India Today.
General Sani, you've operated very extensively along India's western borders. When you look at these exercises being carried out by the sand vipers, when you see these exercises that are being carried out, the heliborne operations, what's the signal? What is India signaling, if there is a signal in these exercises, sir?
Good evening, Gaurav. Good to be on your show.
Thank you, sir.
As I said, I'll just recollect what we spoke about 2 days back. And I said, it is time now that the response that happens in the kinetic domain, whether it is by contact or non-contact methodology, needs to hit where it pinches the maximum. And that is the Pakistan Army, which is the perpetuator behind these operations and the political hierarchy that exists. And now that issues have come out that people like Hafiz Saeed and his deputy are actually behind this whole orchestration of this heinous act that happened in Pahalgam, I think from what I can understand, the political hierarchy at the apex level is looking at going in with a military option where there would be kinetic attacks, which could be, as I said, by non-contact, whether you do it by air, you do it by drones, or whether you go in for physical incursions into across the border, along the LOC. Now, the issue that really comes out of this is that once you do tread into this particular area, as has come out in the Russia-Ukraine war, there is a possibility that there will be a reaction, as we saw that when we had the Balakot as well.
Yes.
Now, how will that reaction manifest? So if that reaction manifests, there is a necessity for us to ensure that we are at the peak of our operational efficiency at that stage. Fortunately, I think that is as far as the options of looking at the military is concerned, because what the way the response comes will require and necessitate our readiness both on ground as well as in air. And
since you mentioned Jalsani, Balakot and Pakistan's swift retort, Air Marshal Kapoor, we would like to understand from you, because India is very proud of Balakot airstrikes. Our Mirages went in across the LC, hit across the international border in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and every aircraft returned back safe, landed safely in India. As far as Pakistan is concerned, their response the next day, the large package that Pakistan launched, multiple fighter jets, they didn't cross the LC, but fired multiple, by some accounts, more than 50 missiles. Some fell very close to some of our vital assets and points. And MiG-21 was lost, and Wing Commander Abhinandan was taken prisoner of war. Are we better prepared in 2025?
Yes, of course, we are better prepared. The last skirmish took place in 2019. And like you mentioned in your preliminary coverage of this whole thing, not only have we developed and our DRDO has produced BrahMos and other weapons of that caliber, we have also got Rafales, which has, like Chief Marshal Dhanwa had said that time, that if I had Rafales at that stage, our equation would have been different. We have been training hard from 2019 for similar situations. But it is a dynamic thing. In air campaigns, the same template cannot apply the next day. Each minute, the situation changes as per the deployment and radars on ground, the air defense setups, and the enemy orbit. And that is the operational movements of the platforms. So as I gather from the open sources and as what is available on Flight 24 radar, there is a constant flow of their aircrafts all across our border. And with the stoppage of Indian overflights even for our commercial and civil aeroplanes, they have not taken any chance that in the guise of a commercial aeroplane, we can snack in a package or something along with this commercial airplane to take them by surprise. Of course, they are also better prepared this time. It is not that they are not prepared. We should not underestimate enemy's preparation. And we should work. But the movement of Akraman exercise, wherein the assets are being moved, because see, the mobilization both for the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force is a time-consuming thing. So the preparation for war starts with mobilization. So now it is taken to what extent. It could be a limited campaign. It could be a prolonged campaign. It could be area-specific. It could be an isolated activity. We don't know. But
it's very interesting because, my mind goes back to the parliament attack in 2001 and the moment then Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee directed the services to respond, we were told that it would require 3 weeks to prepare to respond, and by then it was too late. I want to understand the dynamics, the changes in cold start, integrated battle groups, the responses, all of that in a bit. But Admiral AK is saying Navy is usually seen as the silent arm, the silent weapon, and you're a submariner, so, the biggest strength could be lurking under sea. I want to understand your take on the testing of this MR-SAM or medium-range surface-to-air missile on board the guided missile destroyer INS Surat. Is that also seen as signaling, Air Marshal Singh, Admiral Singh?
Look, I'm not sure whether testing a surface-to-air missile is a signal or not, but I think the Pakistanis are well aware of the Indian Navy's capabilities. We just need the target coordinates, date and time from the government of India, and we can hit those targets at standoff ranges with missiles from our ships, from our submarines, and from from our aircraft. MiG-29 jets also have got standoff weapons. we can also launch marine commandos from sea to destroy targets. So we are quite ready, and frankly, I would expect by now most of our assets are at sea and well prepared for whatever orders come. And we can carry out these attacks either singly or in coordination with the Army and Air Force. It just depends on what the government of India wants.
How interesting, and it sounds extremely, divine, if I may, in terms of, if I take your mind back to 1971 and how Karachi was burning for 11 days. But what kind of targets, given that they've killed, our innocent civilians, they were massacred, killed at point blank range, would any response by the Army, Navy and Air Force be seen as a massive escalation, considering there's already been a surgical strike, there's been an air strike? Are we to understand this time it would be Navy or combined? And would Pakistan see that as major escalation? General Sani, you first, and then let's quickly take it by rotation.
Yeah, Gaurav, firstly, let me tell you, if you have to hurt the system out there, it has to be the Punjabi Musliman and the territory there. So I think, firstly, if you are looking at targets in a response to be able to make an impact, I think that's the area where we need to go. As you said, there are standoff weapons, there are drones, there are aircrafts, there are missiles that can be used. But the point that we have to remember is, and that's what the indication of the services carrying out their training and honing their skills along the border, is to be prepared for a reaction that could be in any of the three dimensions. And if it comes in those dimensions, we are prepared to be able to tackle it. We identify the point and place of entry. We look at and exploit the advantages that we have. And if it is feasible, try and restrict this within the boundaries of Jammu and Kashmir, because that's where the whole focus remains. So I'd leave it at that yes, we are, there is a possibility. The armed forces are ready, all the three services, depending on how they react. And in the meantime, the current set of exercises, though an issue of signaling, are also possibly the honing of the final bit of battle drills that you want to do. It's like to get the adrenaline flowing at the highest levels before you come in contact. And these exercises are a means by which you can try and ensure that the morale is at the highest when we decide to do what we decide to do.
The pain, the anguish, the anger is there. Every Indian is very upset, and perhaps Prime Minister Narendra Modi articulated India's pain from Bihar when he said we will hunt, trace, track and perhaps destroy the terrorists and their perpetrators. But what I want to understand from you, Air Marshal Kapoor, when General Sani says that Pakistani Punjabi Musalman has to be hurt, and he has to feel the pain. Their military jihad infrastructure has to feel the pain. But if the strike is in POJK, Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir, does that Pakistani Punjabi Musalman feel the pain? Or for that, is the Indus Water Treaty held in abeyance, send across a message that twists their tail?
You're absolutely correct, Gaurav, in this way, in identifying. And like General Sani said, the Punjabi Muslims are hated by everybody in Pakistan, be it a Balochi, be it a Sindhi, be it a Pashtun, be it from Khyber, from Gilgit-Baltistan, everybody. Yes. Because the reason is that the Punjabis have captured and are dominating every important vertical in Pakistan, be it the army, be it business, be it the government, be it the bureaucracy. Now, nothing moves out of this.
Okay.
So the first effect of the Indus Water Treaty is that all the higher three rapid rivers don't go through Punjab. So what they have done is they built dams and canals which has been feeding this area of Punjab, and very less water is going because the deltas are close to Sindh area, towards Gwadar. It is in the southwest direction of Pakistan. So this whole water is channelized to Punjab. Now with this water stopping, like if we make our own dams and we don't share our reservoir depths and we are choosy about releasing water at the time and place we want, this will lead to a situation where in few years the area will become like desert.
Okay.
And it will be like Rajasthan. For a prolonged period, the area of Punjab, they are dreading that more because they control and hold this complete land there.
Okay.
And would not want their land in any way to be in a position which cannot be utilized.
Sir, stay with me for a moment before I come to Admiral Singh. There's breaking news coming in from Jammu and Kashmir. That's a big story. The armed forces, the army, and it's a coordinated operation with the CRPF and Jammu and Kashmir police. They've intensified the anti-terror operations in South Kashmir. We are told there's massive search operations that are going on in and around Pulwama. These are operations that are currently underway in a place called Karimabad in Pulwama. Watch these images. This is a house intervention operation that is currently underway. I want to show you these images full frame for a moment, because this is where soldiers are going room to room, door to door, opening every cupboard. And of course, there are times that terrorists are hiding in a false ceiling in the house. There are times they're hiding under false flooring in the house. You have to be very, very careful. And this is extremely, extremely dangerous. The house intervention drill that's currently being carried out. This unfortunately in the past has been fatal in multiple operations. This is perhaps one of the most difficult parts of an operation when you have to do building intervention or house intervention, because you don't know a terrorist could be hiding behind which window, which wall, which door, hiding behind a cupboard, hiding inside the bed box. And the moment you open the bed box, he's waiting and he'll open fire. What is worse, there are times that suicide bomber, that terrorist who usually is a suicide bomber at times, he'll have a grenade in his hand with the pin removed, and as soon as you catch him, he'll just remove that pin, and he knows he's going to die. His life doesn't matter. Unfortunately, our brave soldiers, they put themselves in harm's way, put themselves at grave risk. Remember, our soldiers at this point of time, he is not thinking about his mother, his father, his daughter, his son, his wife, his fiancée, his girlfriend. He's only thinking about his buddy who must remain safe, about his section that must remain safe. If it's a platoon, then the platoon commander wants to ensure that the entire platoon has dinner together, smiling. There are times, unfortunately, and I've reported this on ground, and at times with great pain, when you lose a soldier in operation in such times, because the terrorist could be hiding in a false ceiling in the house. And these wooden houses at times, they have a false ceiling, they have a false wall, they have a concealed flooring, they have a floor beneath a floor, and suddenly the terrorist will emerge with his assault rifle and press the trigger in automatic mode, and all 28 bullets come just gushing out, and survival becomes next to zero. That is why wearing that bulletproof patka or that bulletproof jacket is very essential in operations. And then, of course, it's in God's hands that our soldiers remain safe in these counter-terror operations. They go house to house, door to door, village to village, clearing an area. I want to quickly bring in Admiral Singh into this conversation. Admiral Singh, while this operation is on in Jammu and Kashmir, while the LC appears to be hotting up, and I'll talk about the LC in just a bit, I want to understand from you, is that silent arm of the Indian Armed Forces, the Navy, one of the biggest threats that Pakistan faces, even in international waters? If there's an exercise, Karachi could be blockaded, Gwadar could be blockaded, or is there a threat now of China and Pakistan operating in tandem, or is that a threat for the future? Not currently.
See, if the government of India decides to go up the escalation ladder, forget Karachi and Gwadar, we can blockade the entire Pakistan coast completely. Not a single ship will get in and out, and I suspect Pakistan will run out of fuel, diesel, etc. within 72 to 96 hours. I don't know what the reserves are, but there will be no ship getting in or out. That is absolutely guaranteed. Now, with regard to China, just remember that we have factored in Chinese operations. The Chinese will be operating at about 4,000 miles from their base ports without any support. So if they do decide to get into this, they will have some unpleasant surprises coming also. We do not have to deal with the entire Chinese Navy. We have to deal only with what they can deploy here. in the Indian Ocean region and what the Pakistanis can deploy. And I'm very, very sure we've got more than enough forces for all these people. And in terms of sophistication, our present generation of warships and submarines are very, very sophisticated with enormous capabilities.
Okay.
And we can go right up the escalation ladder. And if in case it goes to a absolute shootout at the end, war breaks out, well, we'll destroy the Pakistan Navy. Have no doubts about it.
Oh, I have absolutely no doubts about it. I'm very confident, but you know that confidence must percolate down to the last Indian on ground, and that is why we have three of amongst the finest voices on matters military on India today. Generals who've commanded armies and Army, Navy and Air Force in very critical time. They know what they're talking about. And General Sani, when we look at the situation along the line of control, 770 kilometers long line of control, Pakistan wanted a ceasefire, and since 2021, Pakistan had a ceasefire. But did that benefit Pakistan more than us? They could move soldiers along their AFPAC border into Balochistan to deal with the situation in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Peaceful here, but they continue to bleed us through terrorists. After what happened in Uri, after what's happened in Uri 2 days ago when 2 terrorists were killed, the Pakistan army aided their infiltration. After what happened in Pahalgam, should the LC light up once again? Or is that disadvantage India in your appreciation?
May I put it like this, that any unfolding of plans that have to happen on ground or actions on ground should be part of a plan. I think just activating the whole border, firing across aimlessly at targets which are really in the tactical realm is not really going to give you dividends. But I think where it matters, where you're looking at making gains, 100% you will have to activate your borders and utilize it. So I think selective based on a plan. I don't think haphazard firing across the LC starting from 14 core right up to 16 core that has come down all the way down to Madhapur headworks. I don't think that's the answer. But I think, yes, do things where you've got an aim, and I'm sure the current set of leadership in the military and the political would have worked it out where they want to go. And I think whether it is part of deception, whether it is part of strategic gains, whether it is part of hitting a tactical or an operational depth target, which has actually been a pinprick, which will be aware to the people and commanders on ground. I think that's how we should look at activating this front. But may I just also put a word of caution? I think the political hierarchy will have to really, and I think we couldn't have had a better Prime Minister today than Prime Minister Modi, who's strong, who's resolute, and who's very clear-headed in taking decisions. But I think this will be a very, very weighted decision because he's sitting in the hot chair. And anything that you start in the kinetic domain, whether it's contact, non-contact, does have the thing of going in the escalation. And that is where I think the country has to be now prepared to be ready to accept that if you go to war, there are things are not going to be as hunky-dory as we've been seeing it. It's whether it's the economics, whether it is the loss of lives, because it is against an organized army that you're going. And you saw that in Russia-Ukraine war. I mean, that blitzkrieg of an operation which started off with their tactical groupings or integrated battalion groups that they wanted to move out had to be revectored in suddenly 5 days down the line. So I think we are fighting against, we have an asymmetrical advantage, but the enemy is also I would say as well a professional army. So you would see reactions that are coming in. So I think the whole gambit has to be now ready for this, and it has to be unfolding to a plan. The current exercises are signaling also, while honing your own skills, about telling them that our intentions are extremely, extremely robust. You have crossed the red line, and I'm sorry, no more. This is it, and we will take action.
Because, Marshal Kapoor, the impression is, yes, we were able to do a surgical strike. Yes, we were able to do a Balakot. On info warfare, the Air Force, wasn't able to convince our Air Force, many argue, wasn't able to show that evidence of destroying the terrorist camps in Balakot. Pakistan was able to carry forward that narrative that only trees were destroyed or crows were killed. And next day, we lost a Hepta, we lost, Vinku Abhinandan's aircraft. But I want to understand, if we can hit them in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, at least they know no part of Pakistan is safe from Indian Air Force. How is it that apart from winning the situation on ground, India is also able to remain on top of that narrative battle.
See, Gaurav, you are in media for I don't know how many decades now. As a nation, we do not have a body like ISPR. We do not have a centralized, each party will have its own narrative. The Congress party has its IT cell, the BJP has its own IT cell, each party, each media house has its own IT team. But as a nation, to convey to the world one voice, we do not have till date a body which can give the combined narrative. So that will answer your first question. Though we did put up this thing, but being in uniform, there are a lot of restrictions and the Indian Air Force cannot do a press meet of its own wherein we start saying it has to go through certain protocols, it has to go through certain filtrations, because what is required, what is not required.
Okay.
To be conveyed, and in what sense? Because it may have a tactical ramification, so as to say. Now, shooting down of the helicopter, I was covering the other day also.
Yes.
These happens. The Israelis have shot down their own aeroplanes. The Americans have shot down their own airplanes. So this is called a fog of war, in that identification, in that heat of the moment, though we all practice during peacetime, all exercises practice. But practice is different, but when you have to press the button for actual launch of a missile or a rocket or a guided weapon, the feeling is different. You know that this is actual and this is live. See, in simulation, we just press the button. So the anxiety, the human element which it comes in when the thing is real is different. You know, some people are gung-ho, some people are very energetic and they are handling it for the first time.
Okay.
It happens. So that is called a fog of war. One point which I have been on debates for last time, I have a hunch feeling that like Pervez Musharraf did not keep Nawaz Sharif in picture about Kargil. I have a very strong feeling, seeing the body language of Shahbaz Sharif yesterday's meeting, that I think so for giving tacit sanction for this massacre. Probably the civilian leadership probably may not have been kept in mind.
Okay.
And the reaction with which the Indian Prime Minister, and I was part of the Defense Minister's meet day before, wherein personally he said in one of the functions I was there after this incident, that not only the people but behind the scenes will also be punished. The similar line the Honorable Prime Minister said. So this message has gone, and I was seeing some tweets last night, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. A lot of private jets have flown out of Pakistan to Europe and America, taking the families and people. So these are all indications that somewhere they are scared. They, back of their mind, they understand the gravity they have done. Probably they overestimated this thing. And on our part, the lesson which I feel, we have put our guards down. See, the area which goes...
Sir, that point taken, but on this part of the show, I'm focusing entirely on the military balance and the road ahead. I completely appreciate your point. Yes, our guard was down, and that's the only way the Pakistani terrorists could kill us. But what the road ahead is where I need, your guidance. The reactions in Pakistan. General Sani, quick 30 seconds that I have on this part of the show. Is there also your appreciation that Pakistan is spooked? Because Pakistan is saying we are a nuclear weapon state. We will hit back. We will hit hard. And they've taken a series of escalatory measures, including blocking overflight and, all the measures that India has taken. They've responded in kind, of course, except minus the Indus Water Treaty. But then they say they'll hold in abeyance the 72 Shimla Agreement. General Sani.
Yeah. So let me just quickly say 30 seconds. The point, firstly, that if you hit any particular target, there should be visible capability that can show that that impact has happened.
Absolutely.
You have to have irrefutable evidence to prove that it has happened. Otherwise, it can be whisked away in the narratives that war that will start. And the second point, what you're talking about, yes, I think they are concerned. I really wouldn't be too worried about whether the political mass was, apex leadership was there in touch with Asif Munir when he took a particular decision, or it was only perpetuated otherwise. Undoubtedly, they're taking, I would say, cautionary action. They are convinced that this actually has crossed the Rubicon as far as we are concerned. And I think that preparatory action is what is happening on ground. And I think that in no way should desist us from taking the action that we decide to take. being fully conscious of the fact that any military option that you take in the kinetics, in contact, non-contact kind of methodology of engagement should be such that it will show results, it will have irrefutable evidence, and it cannot be debated and whisked away narratives.
The last 20 seconds that I have, Admiral AK saying, the Indus Water Treaty being held in abeyance by Government of India. Pakistan says we'll hold in abeyance the Shimla Agreement. Now, does that make sense, or is that they're saying something just for the sake of saying something, and that's counterproductive for them?
I'm really not sure whether it will have any impact in the next few weeks, quite frankly. Whatever will happen, the Prime Minister of India has to take a decision. And once he decides, whatever kinetic action, contact, non-contact, etc. In the Navy, it's always non-contact, by the way. Whatever happens will happen. I don't think these two things will make a difference make any difference at all, frankly.
Okay, we'll be tracking that story very, very closely. Gentlemen, for joining me here on India Today. As always, many, many thanks. After that deadly Pakistan state-sponsored radical Islamist terror attack in Pahalgam, India has pledged there will be a response. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's warning appears to have sent shockwaves through Pakistan. And it's triggered a series of red alerts, frantic military activities, Pakistan's ministers admitting ties to terror, including on international forum. And of course, we are told there have been reports of panic firing across multiple posts along the line of control. So tension is escalating. Pakistan is panicking. The region now on the edge of a dangerous flashpoint triggered by Pakistani terror attack. Our next report gets you more about the panic in Pakistan.
India has vowed strong retaliatory action in Pakistan after the Pahalgam terror attack.
उनकी कल्पना से भी बड़ी सजा मिलेगी.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's pledge to punish supporters of terror on Thursday sent shockwaves across Pakistan. Its military is on red alert and is anticipating a retaliatory strike from India. In panic, multiple incidents of firing by Pakistan have been reported along the line of control. Non-stop jet activity at the crucial Kamra Air Base signals that Pakistan is bracing for impact. Amid all this, Pakistan's Defence Minister Khwaja Asif made a shocking admission of Pakistan's role in terror activities.
We have been doing this dirty work for the United States for about 3 decades, and West, including Britain.
Even as they admit their role in global terror, Pakistan's foreign minister issued threats against India in parliament.
अगर पाकिस्तान की तरफ किसी किस्म की एडवेंचरिज्म का किसी को खाम ख्याली है तो वो भूल जाए. पाकिस्तान की आर्म्ड फोर्सेस पूरी तरह तैयार है.
The Pahalgam attack was one of the deadliest in recent memory and is now pushing the region closer to a breaking point. With military maneuvers underway and diplomatic ties fraying, the threat of escalation looms large. With Shivani Sharma, Bureau Report, India Today.